Hi there, it's me, Tori D, and this is my 2022 craft wrap-up. You may be asking yourself, why does someone do so many crafts that they have to do an entire wrap-up for those for the year? Well, as I'm about to show you, I have a couple projects that I've been working on that I want to provide some updates on, and some goals for 2023 that I want to share with you. The primary craft-related event that I had in 2022 was I went to my first scrapbooking retreat in January. Took a couple days off of work over Martin Luther King weekend, and I had 4 days in Tampa with a group of lovely ladies. It was excellent. I had a great time. It also helped that it was 70 degrees in January, so whenever I was tired of staring at my scrapbooks, I was able to go outside and go for a nice 4 or 5 miler in a local state park. I wound up getting my scrapbooks updated from about a 3-year backlog. My primary craft of 2022 was definitely quilting. Even though I didn't wind up with a ton of finished products for the year, it definitely was what I spent the most time on and put the most of my energy towards. So my first quilt of the year was actually for one of my mentors. She had actually cut up the blocks herself to make a quilt a decade ago and wound up letting them sit with her machine for almost 10 years. She had never moved past the fabric stage, so I was able to get everything assembled into a nice lap quilt, give a really nice border, do an excellent backing. That was also the first quilt that I quilted on my baby lock that I got last winter break, so the end of 2021, and it was amazing. I was able to get the whole quilt done and quilted in about an hour. I also went through and added some custom embroidery to the edge, just as a special surprise for her that you can see on the front of the quilt, but also a quilt label on the back. During the same period of time, I was actually finishing up a quilt that I had started again in 2021 for my brother's law school graduation. One of his school colors is blue, and I actually had a lot of blue fabric that I had saved from my grandmother's stash when we were getting rid of her fabric when we moved all of our stuff out of her house. So I was able to get that quilt basted, get it quilted together in the same weekend that I finished the first lap quilt. I also added some custom labels to that one, which was a hoot because it had thousands and thousands of stitches in 2 custom labels for that quilt, and it ran out of thread in the back half of the Y of my name, which was the last letter on the entire label. My biggest finish of the year was actually my Harry Potter bookcase quilt. It is foundation paper pieced as the Project of Doom from Phantom and Stitch's website. I wound up having 40 blocks in total for the main component of the bookcase, 4 blocks on the side. And I themed as much of it as I could for Ravenclaw, going with the blue and bronze, thank you very much, not the blue and silver. That was supposed to be my 2022 project. Again, something that I accidentally started in 2021, in the tail end of December. But I did finish that in August of 2022, so I could take the time to get it entered into our county fair. Unfortunately, I did not place. A lot of stuff that wound up winning was very traditional, and this was probably the most untraditional thing on the docket there. It was King Plus, pretty much. So we actually had to go to my parents' old house, which was empty, and use the empty dining room floor to get everything laid out, everything ironed, everything flat, get it basted, and we wound up having to load it into the car with me in the front, my mom in the back, the quilt across her lap going out the window. Because it was so big we could not fit it into my Kia Rio. The good news is we only live half a mile from the old house, but we looked absolutely ridiculous driving down the street. The actual quilting on the quilt came together in one weekend of house sitting for my aunt and uncle. I did get really sweaty because, again, I procrastinated on the actual quilting part, and I was entering it into a county fair at the end of August. Even though I had the AC on, it was still very hot and very sweaty. It's been laying on my bed ever since we washed it after coming back from the fair, so it is dearly, dearly beloved. And I will probably treasure this thing until the day I die. I'm actually staring at it right now. My UFOs and works in progress for the year is a longer list than my completed projects list, which surprises no one. The first thing I started was a temperature quilt. I got all the blocks cut in 2021 over winter break because I had determined that 2022 for me was the last year I could guarantee I would be living in one place for the entire year. In that case, I thought it was going to be Tallahassee. That was a lie. I wound up getting a new job and moving back to Pennsylvania. Through a combination of screwing up the pattern for the first 2 rows that made up the month of January, and realizing I couldn't have my quilt reflect one location any longer, I stopped putting it together. So after I moved, I went back and I basically looked at my own calendar, determined where I was every single day of the year thus far, and tracked the weather and the high and low temperature for those places versus one singular location. So it's actually going to be capturing my movement throughout the entire year. I'm really looking forward to finishing that, to be able to put, I think I'm probably going to use airport codes, to be honest, or something very similar, for notating where I am in each of those blocks. However, I really haven't brought it upon myself to rip out the blocks that I screwed up for January and add in the blocks that I need and keep going. It's one of those things where once I get going, it's really easy, but I just haven't brought myself to do it yet. I also am working on probably my first and only Dear Jane. It is a Tula Pink from a fabric store. It's actually a 18-month sew-along that I bought myself as a Christmas gift in 2021 that started in January 2022. However, I only have about 3 blocks sewn together. I have a quilt retreat coming up in January 2023 that I'm hoping to make some good progress on that particular quilt, because it'll give me a lot of just solid work time to devote to that Dear Jane. I also ordered myself a Cotton Cuts, which was the first time I had done one of their mystery quilts. This was the So Sweet. I genuinely don't remember what colorway I chose. It's Christmas themed. I'm hoping to give it to my aunt and uncle as a belated Christmas present. But this one is solidly work in progress. So I am currently on clue number 7 out of, I think, 9 or 10. So after I get those all put together, I'll be able to put the top together, get it basted, get it quilted pretty quickly. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it because they were all pre-cut. So I didn't have to do any cutting. Again, firmly in the works in progress camp is a workout quilt. I was briefly part of the Quilt Your Life crew on Instagram, and I really wanted to track my workouts. So it started in July of 2022. This is a year-long project, so it's, again, firmly a WIP. It's very geometric. It has a lot of straight lines and a lot of half square triangles that are based on my running mileage, biking mileage, time on ring fit, time doing other exercise, if I'm doing races, if I'm getting PRs, all of that fun stuff. So it's going together in month-long strips. So I think my most recent one that I need to do is November. I also have all of the fabric and the pattern printed out for a Maypole baby quilt for an old coworker. So that is going to be first on my to-do list. All of my current quilts on my works in progress and UFOs should be completed by the end of 2023. I also have another quilt that I'm hoping to finish for a friend's dissertation defense that should be happening around March. I had to wait till I got a rotating cutting mat to make the half square triangles there a little bit easier. And then I also have an ugly sweater Christmas quilt that I hope to make for myself by next Christmas. It is huge, it is ugly, and it is perfect in every way. So I hope you enjoyed that craft wrap up, and I can't wait to check in this time next year to kind of see where we've progressed from here. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and thanks for stopping by.